Hey, welcome back to The Dive. Today we're chatting with Rob Sechrist from Pelorus Fund. But before we get into it, if you could do me a quick favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell, please. Hi, Rob. Welcome to The Dive.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's start with a quick rundown of Pelorus, a cannabis-focused mortgage REIT.
Yeah, so Pelorus is a lender, and we focus on doing value-add bridge lending to the owners of commercial real estate that are looking to add value to that property, whether it's ground-up construction, tenant improvements, or whatever it might be to improve that property and to get it built out for cannabis use and fully stabilized. Once it's completed, then they refinance off into a lower cost, a longer term lender than us. We're just a high performance capital to get the facility built out as quickly as possible so it can start generating money.
How do you go about diligencing an operator before deciding to lend?
Well, we start with the sponsor or the owner of the real estate that's going to be guaranteeing our loan. So we are secured by the real estate. So we always start with that element first. We make sure that it's a bank quality sponsor or realtor that, or guarantor that's going to be supporting that transaction, somebody that can qualify for a bank loan, that's got strong financials, liquidity, real net worth, cash flow. Once we have that, we look at the property, we look at the region, we look at the city or the area, what other cannabis operators are there in case we ever needed to replace the cannabis use tenant in that particular property. Once we've gone through those two elements, the next step that we go to is looking at who is the operator. And that may or may not be an owner user. They could be affiliated as an owner user or non-affiliated, but we want to work with the best in class operators, somebody that's got experience, somebody that we can verify that it's going to be successful in the industry.
Do you see descheduling as a large risk to the mortgage REIT model?
So we don't see it for us because we are a value add lender. In value add lending, we've competed against banks for 30 years successfully, and the banks can't do the type of lending we do. Now, if you're a traditional lender just doing acquisition or refinance, yes, you're going to see some competition there, but we don't see it as a risk to our side. We see the downside for us is that more of our private lending peers will enter the space, and that'll eventually push our average note rate down. But the upside is for us is that there'll be even more than the 685 depositor relations out there. That are probably 20% of those are lending already directly to the cannabis industry. They will have more and more options to refinance out of our high performance capital into our lower cost, longer term loan.
You have the advantage of talking to US investors about cannabis. How has the conversation changed since the blue wave?
Well, we've been talking to our investors since 2014 to try to get them to come this direction. We have about 250 investors, each with about $1 million. And it's been a long road to get those investors to get comfortable with the cannabis asset class and the morality and all that. And it took us 4 years to get to the point we are now, just with our own investors. The change for the Biden administration and then coming in, I'm less bullish on the cannabis becoming deconflicted or federally legalized than, excuse me, a lot of our peers. And my feeling is, personally, is that I do have relationships with some of our state legislatures and congressmen, and Cory Garner that did the States Act. He had the votes. He had 67 votes to get his bill through the Senate, but that's when it was Republican led. And so now there's so much infighting between Congress that neither party wants to give the other a win. So those 17 Republican senators, they're not willing to vote anymore for the Democrats. And so I just don't see, I'm not as optimistic that you're going to see something come through. And I don't even see the 10 votes necessary to get past the filibuster. And, maybe they could somehow figure out how to get it into a budgetary item so that it's a simple majority, but we haven't seen that yet. I do think that the Biden administration, if they were serious about cannabis, they could have signaled it by immediately rescinding or replacing or reinstating, I should say, the Cole memo. That would have been a huge signal, and it's a very simple executive order or notification from Biden to tell the Department of Justice to go that direction. And another one that I see that could be a huge signal would be to allow for 280E to be rescinded for businesses that are illegal in states. And that would be huge, huge momentum for the industry without involving Congress whatsoever. So I think if they were going to go this way as quickly as everybody thought, that we would be hearing some chatter there. So we'll see what happens. I could be completely wrong, but we haven't seen anything on any of those, even though everybody says that it's coming. It's coming within within this year. We'll see.
We assume that you look at various states. What states do you think are the most attractive for investors?
So a lender has a different outlook than investors and operators. So we're willing to look at any state that's been approved in that state, because the opportunity for a lender is vastly different. We're secured by real estate. I'll give you an example. The state of Florida is a vertically integrated state with only, I think, 22 licenses. That's a really good state for an operator because you have a finite market and you've got vertical integration. It's very hard barrier to entry. From a lending perspective, that's not a great state because I have limited amount of people that I can replace my property's tenant if I had to. So we look at it we're agnostic, and we're looking at all the aspects of any transaction, how we underwrite, and adjusting for what that state's rules or laws are, and how it applies to our underwriting guidelines for that particular state. So it's different for us. We're willing to go in any of those states, but we're watching every state that's coming online. We've got opportunities in almost all those states that we're looking at now.
Who is able to invest in your fund? Is there any chance that you would look at listing on an exchange?
Yeah, so our fund is, I think, over 500 investors or limited partners at this point. The vast majority are individual, what we call retail investors. They're all accredited investors. We do have family offices. We do have foundations. We do have funds that have invested in us. What we don't have is any institutional investors at this point. And I think that that's more of an issue of compliance and them being able to come into us. And we're getting geared up for that. We're expecting to be the first fund that is all structured for that. As soon as the administration or the rules or the deconfliction happens, we'll be able to board that capital first.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for joining us on The Dive today.
Thank you for having me.
And for our viewers at home, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll see you next time on The Dive to talk all things small caps.